Yo, what is poppin', my 420 army? This is your boy, the mighty Liam 420 2020, and we're doing a Christmas movie breakdown. I'm trying to see if I can pump out like my top three favorite Christmas movies this year. If not, we're starting with Elf. Yes, you're probably watching this one. I mean, again, I don't know what this is going to be titled. Like, my Elf is, might be the same title as my Dumb and Dumber breakdown, but yeah, Elf. It's basically kind of has some Dumb and Dumber aspects to it, and even though it's just one of them as opposed to two, but basically it does like start with like Papa Elf, who he's referred to as in the film, played by Bob Newhart. You probably know as Bernard the Mouse from the Rescuers, but yeah, he's like telling the story of how the baby Buddy was put up for adoption, but then Santa showed up on Christmas Eve as normal. Obviously, Santa's not real in real life, but then obviously Buddy snuck into a snack, and then they find him while celebrating. But obviously, I don't know who played Kid Buddy. Obviously, Adult Buddy is played by Will Ferrell. There's gonna be quite a lot of this. So, and like Papa Elf even explains how he like raised twice as fast, and Santa he's played by Ed Asner, who sadly passed away about I think about a year and a half ago, and basically explained how a human in an elf's world is kind of like you're just like Jesus Christ, he is tall. It's like I know he is tall as fuck. He's a fucking giant, but yeah. There's even like a scene with Papa Elf showing Buddy Santa's sleigh with the clausometer at 20. That's just basically, or even what's super funny is, yeah, obviously they show the sleigh with the clausometer only at 20, and then he shows a jet turbine. But then Buddy's making toys, and then he seems he can't do it right because he's like a different talent. So he's in the toy testing. This is where it really starts to get funny. It's just a running gag of him testing Jack in the boxes. Yeah, the beginning is kind of slow, but then as the movie moves through, it starts really getting really hilarious. But then he overhears a Foom Foom, the elf, talking. It's like, and he says he doesn't realize he's a human by now. I don't think he ever will. And then we literally get like a montage of him being a human in an elf's world. It's like, geez, everything's too small. And then Buddy faints and even talks to Santa briefly about realizing after Papa Elf gives him a snow globe where the Empire State Building is. That's where Walter Hobbs, played by James Caan, who sadly he passed away back about 4 months ago. At the time I'm recording this on November 19th, so it's been about 5 months since he passed. So then here's something really funny when Buddy's talking with Santa. Is like the first joke is when Santa says, "Yeah, don't pay attention to Leon the Snowman. He's never been anywhere. He doesn't even have any feet." And Buddy's super excited to see his dad until Santa mentions that he's on the naughty list, which Buddy's like, "No!" That actually makes me laugh. And we even see Walter just working with somebody at his job. It's like he's like some sort of book publish. He works at some sort of book company in the Empire State Building. Someone let me know in the comments what it is, even though I've watched this movie like a shit ton of times. Because it's one of my three favorites, alongside National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation and Arthur Christmas, which I'll probably tackle those two at some point. But anyway, Santa basically tells Buddy like the ins and outs of New York. So before Buddy eventually sets out, he says goodbye to everybody, to everyone, and then he jumps on an iceberg which starts floating, which his animal friends say bye to him, and even they don't really know the names of the animals aside from Mr. Norwal, the whale, who showed up and he's like, "Bye, buddy. Hope you find your dad." And then he says, "Thanks, Mr. Norwal." But then anyway, Buddy is just sitting on the iceberg till it reaches a. It's like it doesn't even explain how the iceberg just got like shrunk to the point that he had to like practically stand on the thing when he got off in that candy cane field. It's like, well, and here's something really funny. So then Buddy approaches a raccoon, tries to hug it, and of course the raccoon attacks him because raccoons are fierce. This is why you don't fuck with raccoons. But once again, he was raised in the North Pole, so he obviously doesn't know any better. So eventually he's just walking through like all sorts of like forests and streetways until he eventually reaches New York. And we get like some funny montages, like for example, you know how there's like those certain buildings where like you go walking through and it like goes like in a circle. He just runs in the thing and then even goes to puke in a garbage can. At least the movie doesn't actually show the puke, because obviously, whenever I see people vomit on screen in a live-action film, it makes me gag when I see people vomit. I don't know, it doesn't happen with animated films or video games. It only happens with live-action stuff. I don't know why. Until he eventually reaches the Empire State Building, finally. And then when he gets in the elevator, someone else goes in there with him, presses the button. He activates all the buttons for the floors. Like a Christmas tree. Yeah, I don't know if elevators these days have that. Well, again, this movie came out in 2003, so obviously it's probably a lot updated. So everything is definitely updated today from what it was back then. So then eventually, Buddy reaches the floor where his father's working and gets out. Tries to talk to his dad, obviously being Walter, but unfortunately they call security and kick his ass out like Jazzy Jeff. They just drag him out. They don't really, like, toss him. And they tell him, why don't you go back to Gimbals? Which, for some reason, when he gets to Gimbals, he has trouble getting on an escalator. It's like, does he not know how an escalator works? And someone actually working at Gimbals just assumes he's a elf working at the store. It's like, dude, how do you not recognize interviewing the guy? That's just weird. So then he meets up. Well, he's at the store. He meets with Jovi, played by Zoe Deschanel? I gotta figure out how to pronounce that. And of course, she's like, well, at first, Jovi's like, get the hell away from me, but then she eventually starts getting along with Buddy. Even when he tries to, like, show her how to sing, when the dude, Wanda, like, his name was Wanda, he's a black, I'm not saying this to be racist, but he is black. So he's like, hey, there's no singing on North Pole, and then once the store closes and everyone's out of sight, Buddy just spends the entire night decorating. And also, Walter is back at his apartment with his wife, Emily, and his son, Michael. He decides, yeah, I'm going to eat in my bedroom. Michael tries, but Emily's like, nope, you're eating your ass here. Okay, that sounded very wrong. Nope. What I mean is, she says, no, you're eating your dinner here. And he's like, come on, I have a bunch of homework to do. And then the following morning, Buddy tests the whole thing that he built, the contraption he built, and then he overhears Jovi singing in the shower. It's like, if you hear a girl singing, it's like, ooh, yeah. Just tell your girls it's a beautiful singing voice, which, yeah, don't actually go in the women's locker room like he does. Oh, he gets caught, too. It was actually kind of funny, the way he just covers his eyes and he just walked into the wall. That was actually hilarious. And then we see him sleeping with Walter even walking past the store. And then Jovi basically talks to him, asks him, what the fuck were you doing in the women's locker room this morning? He's like, I had no idea you were naked in the shower. I just overheard you singing. He's like, yeah, I was here early because they cut off my water. And then Buddy realized that he was there building the whole thing. He's like, you built this whole thing? It's like, yup. So then, obviously, that's when the Santa, because obviously Wanda said that Santa would be coming that day, which he kind of did. Obviously, Buddy is excited too, along with all the kids. And here's what gets really funny. Buddy walks up, he's like, who the heck are you? Yeah, you can't fool Buddy with a Santa disguise. And even it's like interview the kid Paul, who the fake Santa was the gimbal Santa was talking to, and Buddy's just suspicious. Like, wait a minute, this doesn't smell like Santa. This smells like beef and cheese, and he stinks. And then he rips the fucking beard off, and it just turns into total chaos, and they even end up trashing the whole store. It's just so funny. He trashed the whole store. And so Wanda breaks up the fight and Buddy is thrown in jail. So then, Walter's receptionist lady tells him, yeah, you got a phone call from the police. Because she even tries to walk in, but then Walter tells him, intercom. And then, obviously, Walter has to go down to the police station, get Buddy out of there, and decides, okay, you know what, I'm taking this guy in for a DNA test to see if he is, whether or not he's joking about being my son. Which, they get the DNA test, the doctor tells them, yep. It even was kind of funny in the Buddy just sitting there on the table and in the weight room just eating all the cotton pads. It's like... What did the cotton pads even have on them that made them so delicious? So while Buddy is waiting for Walter to come out, he's talking with this girl named Carolyn. And they're just like talking, basically saying that Carolyn says she wants to get us Susie talks a lot, and then Buddy says, put in a word with the big man. And then he eats the cotton pad on his finger because of course he does. Yes, he basically had his finger out like this, and then he, do I still have my bag of cotton pads in my drawer? No, I do not. I literally had a whole bag of cotton pads here somewhere, I just can't seem to find it. Yep, I do not have my cotton pads. But then, the doctor tells Walter to introduce Buddy to Michael and Emily. So then they head back to Walter's apartment, where Emily's excited. It's like, whoa, you have another son, that's cool. And they invite him for dinner, and he basically explains, and then we even see a scene with him just chugging like a whole bottle of Coca-Cola while they're having spaghetti. Yeah, spaghetti's a good dinner. And then while Walter and Emily are talking in the kitchen, Buddy just lets out a huge belch, which... Guess how long it goes on for? 20 seconds! And Michael even says that Buddy is weird. It's like... he just burps for like a full 20 seconds. Wow. What do you think? It's so funny. And then the following morning, Buddy makes breakfast for Emily and Walter. Well, mostly Emily, because Walter doesn't really eat anything. I'm guessing Michael had already left, because he wasn't in this scene. And what's so funny is, like, Walter tells Buddy that he has to go to work and he can't do, like, what Buddy planned to do with him that day. So they decide, yeah, we can do it once I get home. So then... Walter even tells Buddy to lose the elf costume. Basically the elf suit that obviously, you see how Buddy is wearing this elf suit? He basically tells, Walter basically tells him to get rid of it, which, as soon as he pulls down his pants, Emily walks into the kitchen and... Was Buddy not wearing underwear underneath him? And Buddy even told Walter, I love you the previous night when Walter tried to, like, tuck him in. But... yeah, either way, Walter was on his way to work when Buddy tells him that he's scared about the radiator. He's like, oh, never mind, it is just a radiator. It's like, that is just too funny. Yeah, there's so much funny stuff. Yeah, yeah, I don't know, but anyway, that's like when you introduce like a new person to your family, or you find like a new friend who's like out of town. You're introducing them to your city. That's what it's kind of representative of. But anyway, back to the movie. Basically, Buddy heads to Michael's school. It's like, wait, how does he know what school Michael goes to? That's one thing the movie never explained. But they're walking until Michael even tells Buddy to briefly go away until they're ambushed by snowballs, and even embarrassed the two other guys Michael was talking with. It's like, oh god. So while they're getting attacked by the snowballs, it's like Buddy says, "We can take them," and then they literally, after they make like a shit ton of snowballs, throw it at all the people attacking them, Michael and Buddy actually start bonding with each other. After Michael's like, "Whoa, that was intense." So then they start doing shenanigans, running through stores. I swear, this is almost like, okay, except don't actually trash stores in real life. You will probably get like a fine of, depending on how much damage you caused in the specific store. Wow. But so then they head back to Gimbel's, and Michael revealed that he doesn't really like Walter, his dad, because of how much he works. It's like, you're trying to make Walter look like a cunt. That is kind of fucked up when you think about it. But when they're at Gimbel's, they see that Wanda is now dressed up as the new Santa, and I'm surprised. Like, most little kids would be like, I thought Santa was white. I feel like that'd be the reaction from a little kid if they saw a black Santa dress up in a mall or a movie theater or somewhere. I mean, I didn't really do those too often. I decorated my Christmas tree just yesterday, and I found a picture of my sister sitting on like one of the mall Santa's laps, and she told me, "No, do not put that on the tree." I mean, well, I don't know why there's not a picture of me in there, but anyway, Buddy sees Jovi, and they decide to go out on a date after Michael encourages Buddy to ask Jovi out. So then they head back to the house, chop down a tree, and start decorating it. Of course, we even see a funny scene where Michael is like, "How are we gonna get the star on top?" And Buddy literally just runs into it, and like he tries to do a slam dunk, but then the tree just falls. And of course, Michael and Emily are just arguing about it. It's like, oh, what? It's like, we can't just leave him here by himself. He's gonna destroy the whole apartment. Walter even suggests that, because he doesn't see that Michael's actually happy in that, because Emily even says to Walter, "Well, it's not like you've been ever there for him." uh yeah, and obviously because neither of them can take off work tomorrow the following day, because obviously Walter says, "I can't take tomorrow off. I'm one bad pitch away from getting fired." And Emily says that she couldn't take the following day off because she had a budget meeting. So she suggests Walter take Buddy to work with him, which, literally next scene, he does take Buddy to work. And then, well, at first Walter tries to have Buddy sit in his office, and it's like, okay, you know how this is going to turn out. And it's pretty much when Buddy grabs the phone and Walter tells him, "Don't touch anything. How about you work in the... Have you seen a mailroom? Go work down there." He's like, "Ooh, I might work in the mailroom." Even though that when he gets down to the mailroom, it's complete opposite from how Walter described it. So then, two of Walter's co-workers come up with the genius idea of hiring another writer for the pitch that they're supposed to do, because there was an earlier scene where basically this dude, Mr. Greenway, came in and said that they were going to post a -8 for the pitch, and because obviously you recognize Walter's signature on the two missing pages, and said he would be back by the 24th to see what they had in stock. And Walter even tells him, "Dude, the 24th is Christmas Eve." And I think he was trying to back out, but it was like, And nothing. Let's just do it because he was probably worried, but anyway, in the mailroom, Buddy meets up with this dude who I can't forget his name, but they're just hanging out and sending mail until Walter and his colleagues decided that they would hire Miles Finch, played by Peter Dinklage. And you probably already know how this is gonna go, even if you haven't seen this movie before. So basically, Buddy is just talking with his new friend in the mailroom, while Walter's on the phone with Finch. Until Deborah was the receptionist lady. And she interrupts them, trying to say that Chuck, who was in the mailroom, was there, until Finch literally hangs up and says that he would be there and have everything ready. So then Walter grabs the phone. He's like, "What, Chuck? What's so important? You just had to interrupt me." We literally see Buddy. I can't even describe these in sentences because of how funny they are. He's just dancing with everyone cheering him on. So eventually, Buddy ends up taking a break. Or, I mean, I don't know. Was this even on the same day? No, this has to be 2 separate days. So Buddy has a date with Jovi, takes him to the coffee shop he went to earlier that was literally called World's Best Cup of Coffee. He even congratulated them. It's like, yeah, that would really draw customers into your shop. Why can't shops have more names like this? So ooh, World's Best Cup of Soda. Not that I even, because I don't drink Sprite or Coca-Cola or any, energy drink. Energy drinks are not my thing. Plus, they're not really that good for you anyway. And Buddy even shows Jovi all the crazy stuff he did when he first came to New York until their date ended with them ice skating. Then we cut back to Walter, who's actually having his meeting with Finch, who arrives. And now you're probably... Okay, so since it's Peter Dinklage, so again, you probably know how it's going to go, because obviously Peter Dinklage is a little person. So anyway, while they're in the middle of it, Buddy comes in and starts annoying Finch, literally calling him an elf. It's like, yeah. No, I'm pretty sure, elves in real life are a little taller than dwarves, so... Somewhere between me and a Peter Dinklage-sized person. Walter's trying to get Buddy to leave. It's like, why does the door not have a lock on it? And literally that results in Finch beating the shit out of Buddy and storming out. Which really pisses off Walter to the point that he literally says, word for word, "I don't care that you're nuts, I don't care that you're an elephant, I don't care that you're my son. Get out of my life. Now!" It's like, Jesus Christ! Yes, this is actually one of the few movie lines where it's like, was that line really necessary? It's like, I get that Buddy just fucked up your interview, your meeting, but jeez, that is just harsh, man. So then Buddy heads back to the apartment, writes a letter, and just heads out on the streets. And Walter even calls Emily, saying he's going to be a little later. And even his co-workers, who are in the meeting, decide, hey, let's get our storyboard ready. And of course, Walter's probably a little shaken up from what he just said. But while Buddy's out walking, he sees Santa crash in the park, and then runs to see him, while Michael arrives back at the apartment. He's like, hey, Buddy, what the heck is this note doing here? It's like, oh my god. So basically, Buddy is helping Santa in the park, because Santa crash-landed in there. And he tries to find the jet engine that broke off, and the clausometer dropped down to 0 as well. So then, basically, they're having the meeting. Mr. Greenway is there. Michael shows up and tells his father that Buddy ran off and that Walter only cares about himself, because it's like, finally you're confronting him about him not always being there. And then Walter realizes, shit, yeah, I've never been there for Michael before. Maybe Emily was right. He even asks Mr. Greenway if he can reschedule the meeting, but Mr. Greenway refuses, and then even threatens to fire Walter. But he leaves with Michael, and he's just because Walter's like, I can get another job somewhere else. So then they head to the park, and after Jovi is watching the news of the crash, and then when it shows Buddy walking on the news, it literally shows footage of seems to be a strange man dressed as an elf walking through Central Park. Jovi recognizes that it's Buddy, and then she ultimately runs out of her apartment. She lives in an apartment too. So then the jet engine is just lying there on the ground. Buddy finds it, and he alongside Michael and Walter. And then Walter tells Buddy, "Hey, sorry, I didn't mean anything I said about you responding to your fuck up. Might be a little chemically imbalanced, but I do love you." It's like, yeah, chemically imbalanced. That's probably like the best way to describe somebody who's kind of like crazy. So then they decide to reattach the engine, which they do, and then for some reason Michael ended up on the nice list. It's like, wow. And he said he wanted a skateboard, so he pulls it out, the sleigh goes up. He's like, what the heck just happened? And Santa tells him that he made the sleigh fly because... And also, when Michael grabs the skateboard he wanted, the clausometer goes up to like 30. It's like, whoa. But unfortunately, it leads to a wild chase because the Central Park Rangers were chasing after Santa. Walter tries to distract them by wearing Santa's hat and coat, but he fails. Because Santa even said that Mrs. Claus made the hat and coat, and I guess Walter was like, she can make another hat and coat! So then the Central Park Rangers are chasing after Santa and Buddy, while Michael takes Santa's naughty and nice list, which Buddy told him to. And he even told Walter to take the toolbox to Buddy when they arrived. But anyways, Michael runs out, sees the whole news crowd, and shows them the list. And then that's when Jovi and Emily show up. And Michael even starts reading all the names on the list. And we even get to see that Carolyn girl that Buddy was talking to earlier at the doctor's office. And even a Derek Lawson kid. And it really cuts to like these like biker drunk dudes in a bar, and they all turn to face him. It's like, must be another Derek Lawson. So then Jovi heads up onto a sleigh, gets everyone to start singing Santa Claus is Coming to Town, because Michael explained that like the sleigh wouldn't fly because there was no Christmas spirit, and remembers what Buddy told her earlier in the film, that the best way to spread Christmas cheer is sing aloud for all to hear. I still cannot get that line memorized, even though I've watched this film plenty of times. So then so Jovi starts singing, everyone starts joining in with her. Even the people watching the news, like, it even cuts between, like, various people watching the news, people at Gimbals, people at Greenway, even people at the bar. They're all singing, and Santa's sleigh finally lifts off the ground when Walter starts singing. Because the jet engine even broke off after they got over a bridge. And then Santa flies away. And then that basically is it. He reveals that basically Buddy had saved Christmas, and Walter actually got a new job as like his own, like, in the pub, his own, like, author, writing his own books. It's like, see, that's good. He managed to get himself another job in the end. Jovi is even teaching piano lessons, too. And Buddy is even reading his story to everybody. And Papa Elf even explains that, like, Buddy and Jovi do come to the North Pole to visit every now and then, alongside with their baby, Susie. And yeah, that's basically the whole film. This is like a Christmas edition of Dumb and Dumber when you think about it, even though it's only just one of them, but overall, this film is totally hilarious, and I would definitely recommend watching it. Like, if you don't have this movie, pick it up. Because basically, even like with the chemistry between like the characters bonding was really good. And yeah, that's probably like a little upset the way with like where it's like you know what I'm talking about. Mentioned about the whole fuck up with Finch, where the way Walter responded to Buddy fucking up the meeting. Let me know in the comments if you agree on that. If it's also like, Jesus Christ, was that line really necessary? Because even like South Park did a less harsh version where he just wishes that Gene Smith was his son. Yeah, I'd probably take the I wish Gene Smith was my son line from South Park over that. But yeah, overall this film is totally hilarious. You will definitely you will definitely be laughing your ass off at this movie. Especially like even though I don't really know Will Ferrell too well aside from I know he was also in another film called Megamind and he's also in another Christmas film that fuck, I forgot what it's called. But yeah. Overall, this film is I guess film a 10 out of 10. One of the best Christmas movies ever. I always like to say the best for last. Because usually each year, like, I alternate, like, even years I watch Christmas Vacation first, and then the odd years I watch Arthur Christmas first during my Christmas movie watching season. And also, like, kind of, like, throw in other Christmas films, too, like, but anyway, that's basically it. Let me know in the comments if you want me to tackle some other Christmas movies. I already tackled Santa Claus 2, why that's like the best one, and Elf Bowling, that one's a complete flop. But yeah, that's basically it. Please like, sub, and peace.